Welcome to the DNVR Scoop. I'm your host, Phillip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. Go get you some of that Goonsville clothing and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Transfer portal season, baby. Everybody loves it. Some of the best and most productive college football players in the country are now looking for new homes. You've got guys who have production on one hand, and you have guys with a ton of potential who may not have been seeing the field. You got some guys who used to see the field that didn't see the field last year who are looking to reclaim some of that old glory. You got Colorado in the mix for all three types. When it comes to the portal, right now Colorado is very aggressive scheduling their first week of visits. Some guys that I'll talk about on that list. You got a crystal ball out there for a big time defensive tackle. Before I get started into specific names, I think that is really telling to look at the positions that Colorado has either offered or invited to come to campus. D line, linebacker, quarterback, tight end. Got some DBs mixed in there, receiver here and there. But I think let's start at the top. Let's start with Jahim Otis. Jahim Otis from Alabama. Uh, red shirts this year, didn't play a lot the year previous. Played a lot the year previous. And a huge human being. Let me get a specific stats. Just look at my boy Jahim Otis. Let's get those stats up here for you right quick. Jahim Otis is. I want to make sure I say it the right way. 6'5", 320 pounds. Um, Played some offensive line in high school. I think he was offensive lineman, which lets me know you got good feet. Moves to the defensive side of the ball. Somebody who can play that zero tech. Somebody who has the footwork to play the three if he needs to. Somebody that you like when you talk about being good against the run, you want to be good up front. You want to allow your linebackers to stay free, let them stay clean, and somebody who has the footwork coming from inside to actually push the pocket and get to the quarterback if need be from A gap, who can provide A gap pressure without blitzing. Otis is someone who I don't think the new scheme fit him well in Alabama, but the year previous was a really good part of their rotation of a playoff team that went far the year previous. And if I'm gonna say anything, man, if you're good enough for Nick Saban, good enough for me. So Otis, who had experience under that old regime, played early in his career. Now is looking right now. He's crystal ball to Colorado. He does have some ties to the team. If you look at how early on, how early uh, that crystal ball came out, that lets you know there's some information being floated around. There are some other schools calling around. I do know Arkansas has reached out. I believe Texas has some interest. So there's some. When you got just a large human being, there are going to be people involved. But Otis is somebody I think that would be one of the more important players in this class. Somebody who has experience, SEC experience, played championship football in the SEC, and has learned under who some people consider to be the GOAT of college football in Nick Saban. So I think that's a really exciting prospect. From what I understand, he won't be visiting this weekend, but he does still plan on visiting. So that's one I'll continue to monitor. Another guy that has some interest in Colorado that should be visiting not this weekend but next weekend or over the next week is Kaden Salter, the dual threat quarterback from Liberty. Salter did not have the same season under that he had last year. Previous years, he didn't have the same season, not the same success that he had under his first year under Hugh Freeze. But Salter is a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He has great pedigree, four-star coming out, originally signed with Tennessee or committed to Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken, then transferred. Uh, Strong arm, mobile, someone who has the intellect to make calls at the line. Uh, when it comes to accuracy, he's definitely does plenty enough to be dangerous. And I think he's somebody that if you're talking about having a quarterback that can be a bridge to Julian Lewis, I think he's a perfect candidate. He's the perfect candidate. Julian Lewis is someone who can come in and start day one. But you don't want Julian Lewis to come in and not compete and start. I think that's a tough ask for anyone to come in and be gifted something without earning it. So if you don't provide competition, let's say Julian Lewis, you don't add anybody, and Julian Lewis, you don't add anyone even of his ilk when it comes to skill level, then at that point, you're just handing something to Julian Lewis at that age. And I think in order to command the locker room, you need to be able to beat somebody out. To be a true freshman to come in and start, you need to show this isn't a roster that's devoid of talent. There are a lot of talented players out here, so out in Colorado. So by being able to prove that you can beat somebody out, to be able to prove that you are the best option, even over a more veteran or a more senior quarterback, that's how you gain the respect of your team, how you gain the respect of your locker room. And I think that bringing in a quarterback is something I think Colorado is considering because you do first of all you need depth at the quarterback position. You were the injury guys favored you this year, but you have to have a guy just in case something does happen. And then secondly, like competition is so important that you push each other and you make each other better. But with all that being said, I think Salter is that perfect candidate. So let's say Julian does need a little more seasoning. You've got a guy who can come in and you can compete next year at a high level while Julian works as an understudy, learns the college game. So I think it's definitely a championship football move because when you look at the top teams, Alabama, even though they had 4 stars and 5 stars, you add another one. Ohio State, they got so many quarterbacks. Will Howard, Julian Sand, Aaron Nolan, they got a ton of them. You look at Georgia. Georgia has Carson Beck. They got Jalen Rashada. They got Gunnar Stockton. They've got guys on top of guys. Then you go out and you sign another 4 star in Ryan Montgomery. So if you want to play championship ball and you want to, even last year, Florida had Graham Mertz, you still got to go get DJ Lagway. And DJ Lagway, as highly recruited as he was and an all-world player, he didn't start the season. So, but when his number was called, you saw a difference in Florida. So I think the same thing, that same dynamic happens in Colorado as far as having 2 guys and you have comfort and you're able to get more out of your defense. And the offense responds because they know that you're taking care of the insurance policy. Either way, whether it's Julian Lewis or Salter or someone of Salter's skill level or with his experience, I think that's a really important pick. So shout out to Colorado for looking to get into a mode of championship football and a repeatable cycle when it comes to next man up. Next man up is a great thing when you have talent. If it's next man up and the man behind ain't that good, that ain't good. All right, so I want to talk about a guy not a lot of people are talking about that'll be in Colorado this weekend, and that is Xavier Atkins from LSU. True freshman last year, I believe he redshirted. Super explosive athlete. He's originally from Louisiana. Freak of nature when it comes to his acceleration, short area burst, the way he hits you with everything he has. A playmaker, student of the game, somebody who plays with a lot of passion and a lot of aggression. I think that he's going to be really important to have a guy who doesn't have experience that you can develop in the Colorado way early. Um, we always talk about bringing in transfer portal guys with experience, and I told you about as the show started, I told you about multiple types of transfer guys in the portal. Well, Xavier Atkins, whose nickname is Debo, uh, Debo's his nickname. That's how he plays. Plays like Debo from Friday. That's my ball pump. That's what you get out of Debo Atkins. Prior relationship with Coach Hart, good relationship with Corey Phillips, formerly of LSU. Recruited him for years prior to his commitment to LSU and eventual signing. So I think Colorado sits in a really good spot for Debo Atkins. Could get done this week, not sure, but I think if the visit goes well, you could see movement on the Debo Atkins front sooner than later. And I think that it's important because I heard multiple people, I've seen and read and the tweets and looking at different outlets, YouTube comments where people are worried about the linebacker room, and I think he's the type of guy that allows you to bring somebody with day one explosion as far as being ready for the college level that you can mold. So I think he'll be if you are able to land Mr. Atkins out of Summer Creek, Humble, Texas, by way of Louisiana, I think and we forget that he also um, really can run. I think when you talk about linebackers being able to run, the importance is when you don't have to take a guy off the field on third down, it makes all the difference in the world. So you gotta be excited about Xavier Atkins, aka Debo, being on campus this weekend. Another guy on campus this weekend, a really intriguing prospect, is Caleb Odom, also of Alabama. Caleb Odom, 6'5", 225-pound guy, tight end slash receiver, five-star in this class, teammate of Julian Lewis. Definitely this visit is a byproduct of Julian Lewis committing to Colorado. I talked about, and I talked about it on this show as far as, actually we were on the podcast when I was in Colorado about there are guys that were in, if you go back and you remember, I was saying there are guys that are already at schools that are thinking about going to play with Julian. This guy's one of them. Uh, Caleb had a great relationship with Julian as they were at Carrollton. He was the main guy before some of the like Ryan Mosley, before he developed and became this big time prospect. Caleb Odom, they lost their number one running back in the first game of the season that year, Julian's sophomore year. So he already has this rapport as being one of Julian's favorite targets that he's ever played with. When he needed a big third down, go to go to Caleb. When you needed a first down, when you needed to score, go to Caleb. Jump ball, go to Caleb. They even ran some screens for Caleb, and just his athleticism took over. He was ranked as a tight end, but ended up playing receiver in Washington's offense. Excuse me, in the Alabama offense with the former Washington with the former scheme of Washington with that staff. They moved him to wide receiver after he chose to stay in that class after Nick Saban retired. But talking about Odom, when you talk about somebody who can play on the perimeter with the tight end body, reminds me a little bit of Evan Ingram, somebody who's maybe a little bit less explosive than a Kyle Pitts, but more physical. When you talk about what Coach Shermer wants to do as far as running outside zone, well, who better to run outside zone with if you can run it behind a 6'5", 225-pound wide receiver who you can't afford to press because he's going to beat you up on the line. So when you're talking about a 6 foot, 180-pound corner, that's pretty good size for a corner going up against a 6'5", 225-pound man child on the perimeter, and you go jet sweep. I mean, you got a decision to make as a cornerback. You got to bring it. So I think that's a really important card. And just knowing that you want to be able to run the ball going forward with Colorado to protect whoever the quarterback is. A lot of people were misguided thinking that Colorado can only pass the ball because that's the offense. No, the offense was shifted and shaped for Shador, who's presumably the number one pick in the NFL draft. So if you got the best player at their position, wouldn't you want the ball in their hands more than anybody? Absolutely. So now that you don't have that talent level at this moment, now that talent level, I believe Julian Lewis has the talent to eventually one day be a number one pick. But as of today, I don't think anybody on that radar would come in and be the number one pick the following year for Colorado. So you want to supplement that you want to supplement the passing game by running the ball. So by running the ball, you got to have tight ends. When you go back and look at what Shermer is famous for, a former offensive line coach in the NFL, former tight end coach in the NFL, got Shaden McCoy tons of yards when he was with Philadelphia. Some of you guys in Denver remember him when he had Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Some people thought he ran the ball too much, but that was his jam. So shout out to Sherman. And I know that last season in Denver didn't go the best, but I think that everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And I believe those same concepts, even though they may not have worked as well as you wanted them to, there is proof of concept for those run concepts to work. And I think that by bringing in guys like Caleb Odom, bringing in tight ends, like I think and you see there's more, we hear more talk about tight ends in this year in recruiting than we've heard of the past 2 years for Colorado. So I think that's super important as well. Another visit that I thought was interesting was DT Gabriel Lightfoot out of Fresno State. Another guy who's played a ton of snaps over the years. You can move him in different positions. You want to be able to rotate multiple guys on the defensive line. If you got 6, 7 defensive linemen that can play, actually, let's say you got 5 defensive tackles and four edge rushers that can play. That's like 9 on 5 when you talk about going against the offensive line in terms of freshness and in terms of having great legs in the fourth quarter. So you want to be able to send waves of bodies at guys who have played meaningful football. So I think that Gabriel, who goes about 6'3", 300 pounds, uh, had 24 pressures over his career, 40 tackles. He's somebody that you can bring in as a rotational piece where you don't lose anything and you can push people in practice and that can show up for you on Saturday. So I think that's important as well. University of Louisiana. Ugh. University of Louisiana Monroe offensive lineman Carter Miller will also be visiting. Um, More of a guard from Ravenwood, Brentwood, Tennessee, Ravenwood High School, right outside Franklin, Tennessee. About 6'2", 6'3", right at 300 pounds. Somebody who's more of a run game guy. Still has great feet, but short area punch is really good. Didn't see a ton on him, but after just watching some of his key plays on Pro Football Focus, you can see that you can see why the way that ULM ran the ball, a lot of that was attributed to him. Start came from James Madison, started at center this year. So I think that's somebody with that positional versatility that can help you. Somebody that can either play or push Cass Cleveland, which I think is important. Tight end Zach Atkins from Northeast Missouri State, 6'3", 240 pounds, had 30 caught 30 balls for 400 yards last year. He's got 2 years left. Somebody that can impact the passing game from a tight end position. And I think, like I said, you're going to continue to see tight ends, whether it be a Caleb Odom who can play both, a Zach Atkins who's more of a pass catching tight end, the guys that you brought in at a high school level. I 1000% expect to see more tight ends come in. So yeah, definitely, I think the tight end position has definitely been a focus of this staff this go around. So yeah, I think that this is a very intriguing weekend for Colorado when you talk about the guests that'll be arriving, what they bring. They got more guys coming next week. Yeah, we talked about a couple of them. So as things develop and we learn more, I'll be able to get on here, break down some of these guys for you. But if you have any questions or comments or anything that you want to see from the DNVR Scoop, leave it in the comments. Hit me. Shout out to Goonsville. All right, Dukes, that's my time. I'm out.